So again, we'll start with reminders. Our theme today is best practices. Um, First reminder is K-Kids Week is coming up February 10th through the 14th. Second, we're going into awards and contest season. So these are the awards that your clubs can participate in. New to K-Kids this year is the Single Service Project Award. So we're really looking forward to seeing projects that clubs share with us, projects and images from those projects of service that they do that's not kind of an ongoing thing, but really kind of a single project. So we're excited to see that what clubs are doing. There are two really essential resources for understanding each award and having information about the rules, the themes for the contests, and then some kind of basics about each award. And that is the new and expanded K-Kids Awards and Contest Guide that also provides a good amount of explanation for the annual achievement report. We would love more clubs to submit the annual achievement reports. We don't ask clubs to really report to us or give us give us information about what's going on in their clubs. That is the one way that we really understand what's going on in clubs. The annual achievement report, as you know, a couple of years ago or last year was revised to really focus on the elements that we hope, the experiences we hope that clubs are giving to all of their members around learning, engaging, serving, and leading. And so it's focused on activities that clubs, really most of the clubs are doing and should be doing. So if you aren't familiar with the guidelines for the annual achievement report, you can find that through the awards and contest guide, which has a link to each of the forms, including the annual achievement report, which is used to determine Distinguished Club or Honor Club awards. On the website, you can get to the awards and contest guide through the website, the webpage on the K-Kids website. Sorry. There's also links we encourage clubs to go through the link to each of the forms for the contests or awards that they want to participate in and just review it. And those instructions are in the guide. We will let you all know, and all the advisors know by mid-May which clubs, individuals, and groups have won the awards. So we will notify the faculty and the Kiwanis advisors and send you an email at the same time. We will do that hopefully around May 1st, but at least by the 15th of May. And we will both email and then put on the website all of the awards list, as well as putting it in the May newsletter and sending out through social media. So, but you'll be among the first to know. And the clubs themselves at their school address or their organizational address will receive award items. This year, we are printing all the certificates and sending a few other award items, and those will go directly to the school or the organization. So it's important to know because some of your clubs may actually not, may have school kind of ending around that time. So we hope that we will get everything out by May 1st for that reason. So want you to make sure that you emphasize with your clubs that April 1st is the deadline. We won't accept anything that's sent to us by email. Everything has to go through the award submission entries online, and they need to be in by the end of the day on April 1st. And for us, end of the day is right before midnight the next day. But we hope entries come in before then, because if anyone has any technical issues, it's good to get them in ahead of time. Another reminder, the Global Service Project for the year is Make Your Community Healthy. and we launched that at the global kickoff in September, sorry. So we're going to send out a reminder, but we also, encourage you to remind your clubs to participate. And clubs can share with us the stories of their projects through their annual achievement report. We've added one question to the annual achievement report this year, and it is, what is your best service project? And best could mean most impact on the community. It could mean most impact on the members. And so we really are interested to see what clubs submit. They also can share the stories of their service projects through a form stack that we've set up called Share Your Story. And you may notice at the end of, or the bottom of the newsletters each month, that there's a Share Your Story link. So you can use that as well if you'd like to share different stories, not just for the Global Service Project, of what's going on in your clubs. So now what we'd like to do is actually have you engage in a conversation. And we've asked a couple of our district administrators tonight to speak about specific topics, but these are the general best practices themes that we're going to be talking about tonight. Chartering new clubs, which is a big responsibility, supporting existing clubs, using the district reports, which can help you kind of keep track of your clubs and help us with a few things, and we'll get into that. And then we'd like to ask you about how you handle roadblocks that come up when you're trying to achieve your goals. So we have just a few things to say, and then we will ask you to actually share. So I'm going to turn off this PowerPoint, and we're going to get into a conversation. And then, of course, just to remind you that you can reach out to us. You have our direct email addresses, but I'm sorry, KKids at Kiwanis.org is the other way to reach us. So, as we talk about what you find to be most effective in helping you start new clubs, we just want to remind you that there are several levers that are most important when, they're kind of key factors in growing new clubs. They're things that they're people and groups that really influence how many new clubs are chartered. Kiwanis clubs with a commitment to SLPs are really vital, and we hear a lot of stories about districts where the district administrators actually don't do a lot of reaching out to charter new clubs, because the Kiwanis clubs in the district really do a lot of that, and district administrators kind of help with the process. And it really varies district to district, but Kiwanis clubs are vital. And you're going to probably talk about how you work with Kiwanis clubs to interest them. So really supporting the clubs that are already passionate and have set aside funding to charter new clubs is important. Kiwanians themselves are incredible advocates, and when they're sitting on school boards, or when their grandchildren enter a school system or start in an organization, Kiwanians can be great advocates and get people on board to start to be host sites for clubs. Former SLP advisors that move from being a key club advisor because they were a faculty member in a high school and they move down to a middle school, and they become a teacher in a middle school, and they get to that middle school and it doesn't have a builders club, or they get to an elementary school and it doesn't have a K-Kids. Those people are incredibly interested in making sure that young people have the experience from a young age all the way through, high school and even college. So former SLP advisors can become SLP advisors at different levels. Schools and community-based places that have service requirements or commitments to youth leadership and service are key levers. And then, of course, you all are. So tonight we're here to talk about you and the work that you do. So our first question is, how do you as administrators create interest in starting new clubs and support others that are interested in starting new clubs? So would anyone like to share?
I can start.
Thanks, Becky.
One of the key places I go are to midwinter conferences, district conventions, things like that, to try and connect with presidents or club members of other clubs. And I'm a lieutenant governor too, and I'm really trying to connect with other lieutenant governors. I'm finding, like, for example, yesterday, I was on the phone with middle school principal talking about Builders Club, trying to get one started so that the K kids have a place to go. We have kids that want to move on. And I told one of those students to look for that principal and talk to her and, engage her in the hallway because he's a sixth grader right now. And this year we let sixth grade stay with K kids because we didn't have a Builders Club. And I also met in person with the high school principal, who since COVID, their club has been inactive. And so as a lieutenant governor, I literally was the one in the trenches with these principals. And so sometimes having somebody that's more local, our district is so spread out. It's a long distance for me to go to most of the clubs in Wisconsin, Upper Michigan. So to have that connection with the lieutenant governors first, who then kind of have an idea of which clubs of theirs are most open to starting clubs. But it's really helpful when you have those people on the ground in those communities that can do what I did yesterday.
Well, Becky, you raise a good point that, as a district administrator, you have a really large geographic area, and in some districts, much larger, right?
Right.
But it's not your immediate community. So how do you work in those communities? And what we hear you saying is that in working through district convention or midwinter conference, you get to talk to people from a lot of different communities.
Correct.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It looks like, hello, Jennifer. Would you like to introduce yourself? And then I'm going to ask you a question.
And I'll turn on my audio. Okay, I'm Jennifer Lewis. I'm in Ohio. I'm a K-Kids admin and a K-Kids advisor. And I was fortunate to be in Kiwanis for many years as a key clubber. And my father was in Kiwanis, and I kind of grew up, and now I've found myself in a SLP position where not only I support K-Kids, but I support the Action Club, Builders, Key Club, and etc. So does that help?
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So Jennifer provided a really good quote that I think speaks to the complexity of the work of chartering. She said, "The recipe really depends on the school, Kiwanis Club, and effort of those involved." So Jennifer, can you share, in Ohio, in the last few years, you chartered a number of clubs. Can you share a few tips based on what has worked for you?
I can tell you it's been a learning curve too. I started I'm seniored out of this job. I've been in it for more than 4 years, maybe 5 now. And my perception has changed with more experience. Getting all sorts of McAfee issues here. Okay. And so what I noticed, in Ohio district, we've been fortunate. We have a very active, division level lieutenant governors who seem to come to action and want to support the SLPs. And when the governors, which we've had of recent, have really supported the SLPs, it's helped. They gave us money in our budgets to use to support club building. They've really encouraged it. They've given us opportunity at the district conventions, at the mid-year education days, and at the board meetings to speak, provide materials, and give updates. Many of the lieutenant governors have taken us up on it. We've also made an effort. We get reimbursed sometimes for travel to go to the event. So when they do need help to open the club, or if they want to charter and have an event when the governor or other officers can't attend, I've made a point to go. And I believe that's helped a lot. And then you get an actual physical idea of the school system, the students, the volunteers, the Kiwanis knowledge and support. And it varies. It really does. I'd like to say, just like our Kiwanis clubs, we have small clubs and that are very active, and we have very big clubs that may not be active. I see the same with the K kids. And so on paper, sometimes the programs look strong and healthy. And then when you go physically see what's going on, you get a different idea. The other thing I've noticed is the welcomeness, the invitation. I'm going to make up words. The invitation to the school really depends on the administrators. And I think you all know this. So the principal in particular, and then the faculty advisor, who may or may not know Kiwanis. So usually you do your same thing you would do for opening a Kiwanis club. You see what you survey it, and you see what are the needs. Do they have the so you really do that. You have good materials in the chartering book to say survey it. Say what does your school need? Is it and I also keep in mind, I don't always like push the K kids thing. I'll also give information to share about the terrific kids and the bring up grades, because often that's a good way in. And it can even go in conjunction with the K kids. But what I've noticed is economically, the socioeconomic, you usually get more parent interaction in the higher economic areas. However, it doesn't guarantee you're going to get the support. So I don't make that assumption ever that a higher economic area will have a successful K kids, for example. I see a lot, in fact, a lot more buy-in from whole schools. So sometimes for me in my experience, I've seen when the school system buys into a key club, they're more likely to buy into the K kids. And it's usually hard to not do the opposite. The hard part is when you build up and you don't have a key club and you're trying to perpetuate it. So you have a bunch of K kids who then go on to nowhere. And that's sad. And I think also we're lucky because it's like a pyramid. The younger children that we're dealing with don't have as many opportunities to do service, which is a gold mine for me.
Mhm.
I feel like I don't have to fight it. However, on the flip side, the teachers don't have a stipend built in. So, and then they're stretched thin. And I just had this discussion with someone last night that just because the school system has money doesn't mean that the teachers are less stressed or less preoccupied. It's clear across the board. For what I see now is all the teachers are strained, and it's only the overachieving ones. And I honestly don't know what compels them, because I know they all love their kids. I know they all love the students and want to help them. And what we can do to help support them, it often they need to be the communicator between the parents and the kids, right? So we can't do that. So we depend on them. However, they often know better how to teach the students. And I think many of you are probably teachers. I teach older kids. I've taught college. So I actually looked up. So Harry Wong, who any of you elementary school teachers know, he was like the go-to on how to set up your classroom. So I think what I did early on was try to familiarize myself with how teachers teach, like how do you get kids engaged? Because I think a lot of the materials we get don't address that. And when you start out, a lot of these, you asked about our clubs, but when they start out new K kids, after they say, what do we do? And you give them all the ideas on school service projects, how to when to have your meeting, how to lay out your meeting. Then the next question is, How do I keep them in check? Like, what are they don't have any guidelines on dealing with large groups of kids unless you have experience outside of it. So I find that we've kind of worked together. So this really, she was actually a key clubber, which was great. She was went above and beyond, and I brought her in. So a lot of those conferences I spoke at, she was with me, so she could address questions that had to do with the schools and suggestions on how to get kids involved and what appeals to them, the attention grabbers. She had a harmonica, and the kids were. She just knew how they were trained, which we did not. And actually, during right before COVID, she was absent, and so we had to fill in, and we had support from all of the Kiwanians. There were a lot of retired Kiwanians who still wanted to hang out with children, and so they were able to give time, which a lot of the Kiwanis clubs don't have, I know. In fact, a lot of these K Kids advisors feel like it's they on their own to work in it. So you're trying really hard to get your foot in the door to continue to support them. They don't either think we can help or need our help. So that's the gambit I see. So I don't know if that helps at all. And the other thing I will say is that my district gave us money, which we found really, really helpful when we made goals. And one of the goals was to open 5 K Kids clubs, which we achieved. And the incentive was you would get some money towards your service budget, which I think was a great thing to do. And then I could share what the clubs did. We brought them in to receive the money so people could see them and they could see what Kiwanis was about.
Oh,
So that's one thing so
that's nice. So you were talking about, but in your district, in maybe middle school and elementary school, the teachers don't get a stipend for the clubs, you were saying? Is that right?
no, and it's not
Yeah.
fair. And
Yeah.
we all appealed to the superintendents, but the and some and because of that, some of the Kiwanis clubs would give money,
Yeah.
but we wanted to get it legitimately on the books that they would do it. And the argument was that it may not stick. It seems nice, and you could not honestly have shown more productivity and benefit from it. Parents loved it. They were very active,
Yeah.
but the school system just didn't want to set a precedent. And I
Well,
don't know
it
if that's
does,
common.
it's pretty
Yeah.
inconsistent, and I think Kevin could speak to that.
Oh, I had a quick question. With some of the advisors, I know that they're always working to accumulate points or credits to advance as a teacher, right? Is what we're offering, I guess, through K Kids and how they're serving in that leadership role, I wonder if they can attain any of that. Michelle Shilton, did you want to respond to that? Is that something that they can attain points for? I know we talked about it with Key Club advisors.
Yeah, I think
Does it apply?
it really depends. So most of that professional development for teachers is individualized per their school and their principals. So,
Mhm.
Some teachers may have a very specific directive of topic that they have to do. So I think it could be. I think it's just a conversation that they should have with their principal. Sometimes taking part in outside, learning clubs or communities can be allowed, but it's so
Just
diverse across
depends.
state to state and district to district. So I do think sometimes it could be used like, hey, if you're a faculty advisor, you might check with your principal and find out if you could get professional development points or growth points for being an advisor and attending. So sometimes when we offer at Key Club, just because we have an in-person convention, we'll have a couple of advisor workshops and we'll offer like a piece of paper that just says, so-and-so attended the advisor workshop for 2.5 hours, and then they take it back to their principal and they may or may not get some, professional growth. So I think it's worth a tool, or, it could be something that might entice a faculty advisor to check on that and see if that's possible. But it's just not across the board. It's real hard to say.
Okay.
And that would be for educational workshops, not for being an advisor.
Well, it's
It could-
possible. I think
it's possible.
Cool. So
Yeah, well, some schools, I think that some schools actually require an extracurricular activity for them to be a sponsor for or advisor for an extracurricular activity. That's where that might be beneficial.
Mhm.
Would
It all
anyone like to
depends
speak
on
to
the
this?
school district. And in New York, most of the extracurricular activities, if a teacher comes in early or stays late, requires for the district to pay a stipend for it.
Mm,
And again, that's all subject to labor contracts in New York, since they operate under those. So that's always been one of the biggest hurdles in New York for getting a K-Kids club started, is that the district has to allocate either points or money toward it. And once that's done, and that's why it helps if you have members of your Kiwanis Club who also just happen to be members of your local school board.
oh. That's a benefit.
Oh, it sure is. Principals too.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Becky, wondering if you might say a word about how you raised interest in a local museum to host an SLP. We talk a lot about schools, and just wondered if you might talk a little bit
Right.
about that.
Even in my division right now, we have K-Kids Builders Club that are held. Ours is at the Chippewa Valley Museum, but another club has theirs at the public library. And so again, the key there is you are aligning the mission of that nonprofit with service. So we had a K-Kids Club at Robbins Elementary where I taught for 20 years. And every year we went and did our leadership training at the Chippewa Valley Museum and did a service project at the same time there. So we had already over 20 years of service to that museum. Then when we lost our home due to COVID, that was the first place I went to connect with them. And so that's how we kind of found our ground there. And the standing joke is that the executive director is a Rotarian who just served as president last year. But the thing is, our club always, with the faculty advisor, they become a member of our club, but our club pays their dues. So they are a full standing Kiwanis member too. And that's how I ended up being more active in Kiwanis when I retired. I had more time to devote to the Kiwanis Club as well. But nonprofits even the Boys and Girls Club is a good location to start a club, but libraries are phenomenal because there's a lot of programming for kids going on anyway. And so one of the things our K-Kids are planning for, they just met with the head person at the community Humane Association. She came and talked to them yesterday about a service project they'll be doing, but they're connecting it to the Folk Arts Festival at the museum. And so they'll be making cat and dog blankets. And while they're doing that, it'll be K-Kids, Key Club there, possibly some of our Circle K and Kiwanis members teaming with community members that are going in and out of the vendor or the other exhibits that are there at the museum that day. So we engage them with that. And at the same time, the kids from the community will get free books and bookmarks from us. So they get to take something with them. Last year, what we did, they actually were able to make for themselves as well. It's a little bit harder with cat and dog blankets, but then the kids have been invited to come and tour the Humane Association and got ideas of what they could do for further service at that facility with their families. So it was a real...
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. So
it sounds like, Becky, that you had built a relationship with them already as a club, and you had the unusual happenstance of the pandemic happening and your clubs and schools shutting down and then opening it up there. But you had built through service, your K-Kids had built a relationship with the museum, and they got to know Kiwanis and K-Kids. And that's how one was started there.
Right.
Yeah.
And our club typically has worked with the educator at the museum. So again, it's somebody who is a, former teacher actually, that I work with And I went through like 3 different educators over the years. But we literally, way back in the days when it was a little easier to do a sleepover, we would do an overnighter, and we would have several different components, and Key Club and Circle K or Builders Club would come in and do activities with us. They wouldn't stay overnight, just the kids with adult chaperones. But that was a big thing because they had to be incoming or outgoing board members to do that, because that's how we did our leadership training at that location as well. So, but it
Thank you.
continues to be the Kiwanis family home, where our kids will do service together. It's not just one service leadership program. It's like 3 different levels for us.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Becky.
You're
On
welcome.
that note, I was trying to push with the local a lot of the local libraries
Libraries
do
are great.
programs for service for young people. And if you can get the right connection, maybe you can get that merged in with a Kiwanis K Kids
Mhm.
type of program. We've also had a partnership with a local youth council in Queens that sponsors a couple of K Kids and Builders Club. It's not there are paid people who run after school programs, so they're already being paid. There's no stipend involved, and
Right.
they roll out the Kiwanis curriculum for K Kids and Builders Club, and
Oh,
they're sponsored by a Kiwanis club, in this case the Ridgewood 321 Club. Fortunately, I know we've had some differences there where they overextended themselves and sponsored way too many clubs. Then they dropped them, and I'm happy to say that this year they liked the program that they brought back a couple of Builders Clubs and K Kids.
thank you, Kevin. Michelle, you had talked about, you had shared with me that you've used I'm sorry, let me ask that in a question. What have you used to make starting a new club a smooth process in your district? You have a process.
I do have a process. So, as mentioned early on, I have made sure to be at the conferences, conventions, board meetings, and every year I make sure that all the lieutenant governors know who I am, have all of my contact information on hand, and that they share that at their first meeting with all of the clubs that are within their division. So I feel like that, the getting it off the ground and finding all the right pieces of information and paperwork is usually the biggest roadblock and what turn people off. So I have a process where they've all been instructed to come to me immediately whenever there's an interest. And so I've kind of set up different groupings of documents that we've been provided over the years or that I've found on the website. And I have kind of here's a package to go to school administration. Here's a package to kind of go to potential advisors to get them excited. Here's a package to go to the clubs. If today I was trying to find a Kiwanis club for a new Builders and Key Club that's ready to go. I just need a Kiwanis club. So package to the Kiwanis clubs of why you should do this. And then I have a package that when it's go time, it's a checklist and here's how you charter. Here's exactly how much it costs, where the money goes, who pays it, get your background checks like ... Here's what you're going to do to get off and running. And I've found that has sped the process up a lot when we're ready to get things rolling. So
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and if you want to come back with any other thoughts after the next section or when we wrap up, please do. But let's talk about supporting existing clubs.
Okay, and before moving on to that, I just wanted to share, since Michelle was sharing about what she does to start clubs. I'd been contacted from an advisor today asking me for videos to show her K-Kids members, to show potential K-Kids members. They were going to show these in an assembly to get students to learn more about the club. And so I sent her several selections of videos we have, and she was very excited about that. So utilizing videos, I would imagine that's part of your digital package, Michelle, but just mentioning, we'll try to figure that out. Maybe, have that in a section on the website. So you just have to grab it and send an email and you've got it all. But moving on to supporting existing clubs. So we want to kind of discuss how administrators help advisors feel informed, connected, supported, and we are interested in the most effective ways to share information with them. And Kevin, we really want you to share a little bit about how you support existing clubs in your district.
Oh, sure. For starters, about 3 or 4 times a year, I try to just write a brief newsletter with points coming up, and there's one that'll go out this week about the awards coming up, so that they have plenty of notice to get them in. In New York, our school year runs to June, and I know I'm going to hear it when they say that the deadline for awards is April, so that's coming. But since we have the tools, we have the whole reports of all our Kiwanis advisors and faculty advisors. I'll just gather that up and just throw that into a Gmail BCC and just type in points of information that coming up. And if there are any questions, let me know. I also try to ask that. I also say, hey, keep me involved on what new service projects you're doing so that we can share with the other clubs in the district. The other thing we're trying something new this year. We introduced an essay contest where we're asking each faculty advisor to their clubs for their students to write an essay about what service and family means to them. About 300 words or so. And with that, the deadline is February 14th. We'll see what we get. And guess what? The winning club is going to get a pizza party. So hopefully the students are excited about that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I have some information from our Nebraska, Iowa district administrator who isn't here right now. But the K-Kids and Builders Club district administrators, they team up and twice a year they plan an annual virtual event for their advisors. So they're reaching out virtually with similar content, and they keep them informed, they inspire them, and all the advisors that are attending meet other advisors online. And then they also, I don't know if your district does this, Kevin, but they ask advisors to send them information about their most successful project that they did during the year. And then they compile a spreadsheet, and they shared this spreadsheet with us. And it was just really interesting to see the pictures and hear the descriptions of what the clubs did. And it's just one district, because when we ask for it from international, we might get one or two from each district. And sometimes even with awards, we don't get as much as we'd like, but to see all that's happening in one district is pretty exciting. So that's kind of neat. But did anybody else want to share comments on what they're doing to connect with their advisors before we move on to the next?
Not a comment, but I'd love to ask a question. So when I was initially trying to send out newsletter style emails for information, when I very first started this process, a lot of times it was, duplicative of what we see in the existing newsletters that are coming out for international, because that's where I was getting my information from. And, some people would open it and say, what's different about this and the other email, or is there anything new in here I need to read? But then it kind of got to the point where nobody would open them. And then I started going to everybody's spam. And so on top of all the school districts that already block me, then going to people's spam, I wasn't getting my emails sent to anyone I needed to get information from. So I walked away from that practice. And I guess I'm curious, how did you get to a point where you could communicate with folks that they would actually open your email and not put you in a negative position?
Oh, I could take that for, you're right. A lot of the educators don't receive it because it goes to their spam. However, I also send it to every Kiwanis advisor. And in it, I say, hey, Kiwanis advisors, if your faculty advisor isn't getting it, please talk with them at your next meeting or send it to them. So I try to get the information that way to them.
Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant.
I'm going to chime in. I totally agree with what she said, Michelle did. I've done the same thing of not doing a newsletter because I don't want to bombard them with more information if it's not new, hoping that they'll see it. But what I found was the information that the secretaries have is not current or accurate. So a lot of the even trying to update that list of advisors in the school addresses is not current. And so what we're going to do for this coming um, next gathering is to show instructions for the secretaries, because a lot of them don't know that this information is there for them to update, and they may not even know who the advisors are. So that's something that we've made a priority, myself and the other DAs, to try to make that accurate, because they're not even getting the information. And then I agree too to go to the Kiwanis advisor. They're the ones who you might have a chance to see the information and reinforce it. So, but trying to get that updated information has been really hard.
Yes,
It's
and
hard. I
from
noticed in a
yeah.
lot of cases, and I keep pushing, is that I'll have I may have a faculty advisor, but I don't have a Kiwanis advisor listed for a particular club. In which case, I've been nagging the club secretaries to, hey, put in your Kiwanis advisor. And I think some of them don't put it in because then that involves the background check situation, which is why they're not putting it in. But
Oh, interesting. Yes. And that's a good point because we do, from international standpoint, we do send out quite a bit of, at the beginning of the year to the Kiwanis Club secretary with specific information about how to update and what we need them to do. And so it's interesting that sometimes that information isn't correct. That can affect a lot of things. And it does affect the reports that you're pulling from the Kiwanis Connect, right? The
Right.
portal, it won't be up correct.
Right.
If you come across, someone mentioned this the other night, if you come across something that isn't correct and you get word of it, an advisor, an address, email the member services team. And let them know so they can make that update in our system. And so the next time you pull a report, it should be updated. Um, interesting. Okay, well,
Well, yeah, and I would say one thing,
Mhm.
speaking as a club secretary,
Yes, I know.
I
I am
am.
too. I'm a club
It's like
secretary.
if secretaries don't know what's going on, we're in trouble
Yep.
because they really are the ones that have to send out the invites to do the background checks. They need to kind of keep track of that. And also, like, I just sat down with my faculty advisor at the high school
Mhm.
and went in to show her where monthly reports are done. So she then was going to go with officers and work more with that. We're still trying to regroup after COVID. So where before we had some more better training from year to year, we're now picking up the pieces and trying to train everybody on how to do things. But for us, it's been getting our second group of kids to district convention too.
Mhm.
And expectations that, especially at the Key Club level, that those officers need to be responsible. The faculty advisor and the Kiwanis advisor aren't going to do everything, but we can coach you and mentor you so you know how to do things. And so it's just, it's a long process. And but I really think that whole idea that knowing who those secretaries are, knowing who those Kiwanis advisors are, and I know I agree that I'm missing a lot of those names. And I also from the point of view of somebody who was for 18 years a faculty advisor at the elementary school,
Hmm.
Kiwanis International provided me so much information. I never knew who the district administrator was, or I never really worked much with them. So that's why I'm trying to hopefully do things a little differently. But I think the key to is that Kiwanis advisor to the SLP needs to be in constant connection with the faculty advisor, because
Mhm.
otherwise those are the people that when they are frustrated and don't know what to do, if they don't have somebody there having their back, like I had with the high school teacher on Sunday afternoon at the high school,
Oh my, yeah.
after we met with two co-presidents and about a service project. If we're not in the trenches with those faculty advisors, we're not going to keep those clubs going. They're going to fold down the road. So those are just some things we need to keep in
Becky,
Yeah,
And
it does make
without
a
a
difference.
Kiwanis,
To the
without a
point-
Kiwanis advisor, the K Kids Club loses all meaning to why they're even sponsored by Kiwanis if they lose that connect.
Correct.
They do. That's correct.
I
That's
had 3 K-Kid Kiwanis advisors at our meeting last night with the faculty advisor.
Oh,
And
very
the
good.
kids.
Just so that you know, if you haven't heard this before, at the end of July, like July 30th, August 1st, we send an email to 3 groups. We send an email to faculty advisors and Kiwanis advisors that says, if you want to get your kits on time as close to when the school year starts, work with your sponsoring Kiwanis Club secretary to provide this information. You confirm the names of the advisors for your club and their
Mhm.
contact information. Give them a projected membership count, and confirm the address where the package, your program kit, should be shipped. We
Mhm.
send one to the Kiwanis Club secretaries as well that says almost the same thing and says work through your Kiwanis secretary, your Kiwanis advisor, or contact your Kiwanis advisor and your faculty advisor to so that you can provide all of this information. And we strongly encourage Kiwanis clubs to renew their clubs at the beginning of the school year, not at the beginning of Kiwanis's service year. So we send those. Whether they open that and follow those instructions is another thing, or whether they just download an invoice and send in a check. I mean, it really is, send in a check sometime in November. We've
can be
been
problematic.
communicating for several years about this specifically.
Yeah.
So just so
Yeah.
you know, there is communication. It just needs to be read.
Yes, we're
And-
gonna.
Sorry, I was just going to ask if, for Key Club, I feel like we start building the year before the year ends, right? For the
Mm.
following year.
Right.
I would love it if you guys would consider doing something similar for builders and K Kids, because I know the 3 school districts that surround me, they actually shut down the teachers' emails when school's out. So you're sending an email to someone that isn't getting it until the day school starts, right? And then they are
Ah.
bombarded with school starting. And then by the time you get the information in, and then they actually get their kits, right? They're a couple months in. So I'm trying to reach out and encourage people to start thinking about that at the end of the school year, what it might look like for next year. And then the Kiwanis Club can be the one to work on it over the summer and to do their part. But I feel like the fact that we put this off, I feel like starts some of these folks at a disadvantage.
So
Yeah,
Michelle,
that's a good
can
point.
I ask, we can't open payment until later. That just isn't going to work with the finance situation. But what is it else that we could do without the payment part? Is it just sending reminders in May to start thinking about your club for the fall, or is there something else that you're thinking of?
Yeah, I'm trying to convince all of them to give head counts at the end of the year to start, getting the kids excited about Builders Club for the following year so that,
Mhm.
they're ready to go when they start school. They know it's going to be coming. And, even if their head count isn't perfect, but to try and do that before they leave for the school year, just because we do have so many that get completely shut off over the summer. And as much as I've tried to be nice about it, I can't convince a single one of them to give me their personal email.
Oh, interesting. And okay, well, that That's okay. That kind of is going to bring us into the next topic of discussion because, we're utilizing reports to get access to information of those advisors to use that to our benefit. So, Michelle, you've been kind of sharing a little bit. Share how you keep track of the status of your clubs. It sounds like you're trying to get information before the year's end, but you've got a really great way to kind of track who's active and inactive and that type of thing. So share a little bit about what you're doing with that.
Yeah. Do you want me to share my screen or do you want me to just
Yeah,
talk through it real quick?
yeah. And you may have to ask Luana. Well, let's see, you might have to ask me for access. I think I'm a host now. Let's see. Hold on. It says, yeah, hold on. Allow. Okay. Hopefully you can do that now.
All right. So it sounds like most of the folks on the phone were familiar with the reports that you could download from Kiwanis Connect. I just go through the members section and get on Kiwanis Connect, and then download my SLP reports. So I do download these about every 6 to 8 weeks just to check for updates. I know it sometimes takes about that long for some of my new clubs to come on and things to happen, but I do use these to find anyone who has newly been marked as inactive, or anyone who hasn't paid their dues yet. And this is the report I use to follow up with the folks that haven't paid their dues or surprised me and jumped on the inactive list, and didn't reach out to me in advance. But there's a couple downfalls to this. As it's updated, it overwrites old data. So what I've started doing is keeping a master list, because when I first started, I knew nothing about the clubs that were active or inactive and why. And so I actually maintain what I call sort of my master list. And every time I get updated information on contact information, I put it in here. So I have the most recent contact information. And then I also keep notes for myself, out to the side here. I don't know how much of my screen you guys can see. But I keep detailed notes for each club that goes inactive or has issues, so that I know what happened there. And then I've also, kept some, after they're inactive for 2 years, Kiwanis actually drops it from this report. So my big master sheet that I have, keeps all of the inactives, because I've had folks that worked diligently over a period of 4 years to finally get clubs reinstated. So it's kind of nice to know if there was a club there before, why it shut down, and how we can get it restarted. And then this also allows me a place to track the clubs that we're currently working on starting up. So I kind of have it all in one place. Takes a little bit of work on my end, but in my mind, it's nice to just have it all in one spot. And also it helps me with reporting back to leadership when they're asking, what's going on in the world of K Kids, how many folks have started up and where are we at?
Michelle, that's also a great gift to the next district administrator that takes over if you ever decide to retire.
And that's exactly why I started it, because I started from ground zero, knowing nothing, and no one could tell me anything because we hadn't had one for several years. So, yes, the goal is to pass it all off, email address and all.
Oh, that's beautiful. And with that, there's another important thing we can monitor through reports, and that is the advisors and their youth compliance, youth protection compliance. And I know, Jeannie, you do this. Jean Delisle, you can, would you please comment on how
Yes.
you keep track of youth protection compliance to ensure that your clubs are in good standing? So if
Okay.
you want to share a little bit.
Okay. So first, I want to let everybody know I'm not the youth protection manager or administrator for the district, but I do help her out, and that's what I'm going to let you know how I do it. And just a little more information about me. I'm also I am a K Kids advisor. I'm also the Kiwanis advisor for Circle K Club, and I'm the secretary of 2 Kiwanis clubs. So I have a lot going on and very involved in Kiwanis. I have been very successful in doing background checks and making sure people do the Presidium courses. And I do have to thank Lisa and Luana because they do put up with a lot of my emails. But if I have a problem, they're able to solve it for me. Every month I go to Jenny's list and I open up Jenny's email and I find my K-Kids and my Builders Clubs. And I look to see who has not had their background check completed. I have letters that have gone out that have been extremely successful. If anybody would like me, if you want to put your email address in the chat, I did send them to Lisa and Luana today just so that they could see what I do. But I think I'm only down, when I first started, I had so many club secretaries that had to do work in order to get background checks done for their advisors. And I think I'm down to 1 or 2. That's how successful this has been. So I have got 3 different letters that go out. I have got a multiple letter that go to Kiwanis advisors that have not had their background checks done. And in that letter, I also copy the secretary. And that way the secretary will know if they hear from that Kiwanis advisor that they need to send them the link for the background check and that there's a $35 fee for that. I have been very successful with that. I just had one where there was a problem because the name that the person was going by in the Kiwanis Club was not what Kiwanis International had listed.
Oh.
And I was in touch with Jenny, Kwan, Luana, everyone. And I'm happy to say I got an email today that situation has been resolved. So I guess
And that was from Jenny.
Yes.
And
And
she's
it has,
amazing.
Yeah,
Jenny's
It-
great.
we are actually not involved in this. So if you have any youth protection issues,
Jenny?
Jean,
Yeah,
is the person, and that's why Gina gets responses so quickly.
it's it's wonderful. And so that got resolved today. And they will tell you, I am not afraid. And I think this is important. Don't be afraid to follow up. Don't be afraid to continue to send emails. Then I have an email that goes, and I heard somebody mention it before, where you have a K-Kids or a Builders Club, but you don't have a Kiwanis advisor. I have got a specific email that goes out for that too, which has also been successful. So I am putting in the letters now because a lot of these people get these letters every month, because every month, as soon as Jenny gives me that letter, I turn right around and my emails go out. But I also kind of apologize that if they're getting the repeat emails, but I said, this is really important because Kiwanis International needs this information. So I have a letter that goes out to an individual Kiwanis faculty, not a faculty advisor, a Kiwanis advisor that their background check has expired. You can do a group one. And then I have the letter that goes out to please try and get a Kiwanis advisor if you don't have one. Now that has been successful because I have gotten replies from clubs in the New England and Bermuda district thanking me for the email. They're working on it, but at least I know the emails are getting read and that they are getting worked on. It has been very successful. If anybody would like the letters, I see I got at least a request for one in here. I would be more than happy to do it. But I'm also going to let you to know, use your KI resources, use Jenny, use Lisa, use Luana, use Kwan. They have been unbelievable in helping me resolve problems or answering questions that I don't know the answers to. They are there for you, and it makes it a lot easier. And and they know I take this very seriously, and I totally enjoy what I do. And it's just making the connection and keeping in touch with everybody. So please use the resources that KI gives you. If you would like my letters, I would be more than happy to do it. It has been very successful. And like I said, I started off with, I don't know how many Kiwanis advisors that had not had a background check. I think I'm down to like one or two. It's just been, it's been amazing. And also make sure that your club secretary knows about the box that has to be, this is really under youth protection, but how many clubs do not even know where that box is on the secretary's dashboard to check. And I did a session at a convention as a secretary's course, and the amount of secretaries in that room that didn't even know where that box was, that you had to click that box. So, you know, let people know. And like I said, again, don't be afraid to ask questions, because KI is there for you and KI will help you. Michelle has helped me. I mean, there's been there's been a lot, and the background checks are so important. And I'm only going to say this once. And the courses are important, because if you run into a problem, you will not be covered by Kiwanis insurance. So please, please, please make sure your Kiwanis advisors take the background check and take the Presidium courses, because it can be a disaster on down the road, which is why it is so important, and which is why you should take this very seriously.
Yeah, good points. Well, thank you. That
You're
was
welcome.
very helpful. So some good points and ideas for using our reports. And now I thought I'd just ask, I think we've shared a few roadblocks that administrators have hit, but I thought we'd kind of wrap up with any roadblocks that you want to share about that have been a bit of a challenge. Maybe we can help with those. So if anybody wants to comment on that. Roadblocks to achieving your goals. I know we talked about stipends for advisors at schools.
I'll two of those. How much from you do you guys think is a fair stipend for an elementary school, a faculty advisor? That's, and then the second question I want, and I don't know how it can come about, but I'm curious how many faculty advisors are Kiwanis members. And I'm also curious how many principals or superintendents are Kiwanis members. If there aren't as many as I think there should be, that might be a nice opportunity to build our membership also. And then, there was a time when I was young that it was just given that the school principals were in Kiwanis, and now I feel like they're all in Rotary, and I'm not sure what happened. But I think, but in the background check too, I fight this because the faculty advisors, they say, well, I'm covered with my school background, but I think we want them to do both. So, and then the other downside to your point is also all the other, you want to have other people help, and they're so excited to help, but I get worried when they don't have the background checks. So there you go. That's the roadblock. Okay.
I think
clarify, for the faculty advisors, if they are not, the best practice is for everybody to get it. But if you have faculty advisors who are never leaving the building with their students, it's okay if they do not get the background check. So, you know, if there's ever a chance that they're going to take a field trip or they do service off grounds, it's probably best to just get them to do that. But a lot of schools are not allowed to go anywhere. So if those faculty advisors are not leaving their school property, they do not have to get ours done.
Right.
And they do their own youth protection training. They're required to. So at least in public schools, they are. So they don't have to do the Presidium courses either. It's when they leave campus,
right? Because when
our insurance takes over.
When you're on school property, the school insurance liability, everything is first, and then it's Kiwanis. But as soon as they leave, it's a different story. Now, that's not to say for the Kiwanis people coming, you know, your Kiwanis advisors coming in. So,
but still, even it goes the same way, because as Kiwanis advisors, if I'm in the schools a lot, I have to be background checked by the school district.
Yeah.
So it,
Yeah.
and I know with typically like with our key clubbers, when they're off site, usually they're with me and not with their faculty advisor. So and I know the numbers with having a background checked adult, it's a larger number of kids that you can have at a public, event. So, but that's why I've tried to have, I would advise clubs to have more than one Kiwanis advisor to a club, because then you have those two or more adults talking to each other too, so that if somebody's gone or sick, there's always someone to support. Especially when we're not in a school setting and we're at like the museum. I kind of look at it like when I was a Girl Scout leader, we always had two adults. So even though that the museum has worked things out for that adult to not be overtaxed by K kids, and we're doing service to, we bring in, the K kids does not cost the museum anything. We bring in people power to help with events. There are perks to us being part of that partnership. But yeah, it's the key is having, new number of people that are background checked. Even our person in charge of Adopt the Highway, that's out on the older, one of our older Kiwanians that spearheads the cleanup and that key club and Circle K do. I said, hey, I know you're on the highway or on that main road where everybody drives by, but still, I think you should be background checked just because, and he laughed and and then he helps with other stuff too. So
That's a good point. Well, we're wrapping up to about that time, I guess. Luana, do you have more comments you want to share?
Yes, just one. Kevin, are you able to speak to the stipend question?
I have no idea what they get paid, honestly, because that's between the school district and the teacher. I know it's done by credits where they do a certain number of hours and what the rate is per hour. Again, that's all contractual.
Okay. I know that now I worked in private schools, but in general, an extra duty being an advisor, it would depend. It could be $400, it could be $600, it could be $750. And of course, the coaches, like the football coach, gets a lot more money, right? I mean, but for club activities, it could be anywhere in that range, Jennifer. But I feel like teachers would just if there are other stipends going out, but they're not getting a stipend, they know what their colleagues are making. But teachers appreciate anything,
Right.
Not getting paid a stipend when your colleagues are receiving it is devaluing. Yeah.
Right. And elementary schools, it
challenging.
diversifies because sometimes they have a school
Yes.
program that we used to have after school classes that we had like PTO paid for
Right.
our stipends for those. But I did 17 years as a faculty advisor in my elementary school. And the only thing I got of it was blood, sweat, and tears. And people that would volunteer, they would volunteer and bend over backwards to help us when we needed help. But it wasn't anything I got paid for.
Yeah. And
I wanted to do it. It was important to me.
High schools are typical. Like
Correct.
most high schools pay stipends, period. Middle schools, probably more. And the least that happens, I think, from what I've seen in school districts and private schools is the least it happens in elementary school.
Elementary, correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking that might be a way to get more advisors if we
Oh,
offer
heck
that.
yes. Heck
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
I wish we could figure out something with maybe the PTO actually. If that could, that's a smart,
PTO,
that's a
yeah.
smart relationship actually.
Mhm.
Anyway, because unions don't work in all places.
No.
So
And in addition, I've seen, we've talked about the stipend thing as well, and we've talked about anywhere between 500 and 1,000 would have to be what the stipend would need to be if it's something that's preventing you from getting an advisor, that you're going to need the money enticement. But I've had several just ask, they just want funding support for simple things like, can you give us money so that we can have snacks for these kids who are staying after school, right?
Yeah.
So it's after school, they need something to eat. They're probably going on to do something right after this club. Like I just want to be able to, even have peanut butter and crackers or something, and it's one more thing to come out of their pocket. And so I think that's going to be a hot topic for us is, I know
That's
everyone
something that
needs
could
more
come out
money,
of
but
that's something that could come out of the club's foundation budget.
exactly, is getting the clubs to approve giving money out of their foundations to
As they should
further support.
to support
Right.
their kids. It's not just the annual fee, which is pretty minimal when it comes down to it. I mean, it's like our club will always financially support their installation and celebrations and that type of stuff. And pretty much we have a relationship. If they need something, they just ask. We have it built into our K Kids club budget. Speaking for my own club, East Meadow.
Oh, you're
Throw
East
out something.
Meadow. Y'all,
Ah.
your schools or your clubs send us entries for the awards contest. Actually, we got some a good speech last. Anyway,
Oh, good, good, good. We
Yeah,
are
New
good.
York always, they do a great job.
of course.
Well, we're happy to say that every elementary school in our school district now has a K Kids club. It took a long time to get there, but we have I think it's 6 elementary schools. We have 6 K Kids clubs now.
That's exciting.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you.
I want to also encourage, if you don't already, to invite the students with their parents to come to other events, and you can incentivize them. We've created a gift, get in free to the pancake breakfast if they don't have a job. And then because of the advisor issue, we bring the parents along. That way you don't have to worry so much about guarding them, but then they get involved. Invited them to ring the bells with the other SLPs. Very difficult to get them to come to conventions. I've had a hard time with that one, but I think these other service activities, they participate in our 4th of July in the summertime. So it's just cool.
wow.
If you got the parent involvement, that's a great opportunity.
Good point.
Also, we've had many K Kids parents who have made great Kiwanis members. At the installations and at events, we always mention come down to a meeting, see what we're like, and hopefully, I'm pretty sure in February we'll have our K Kids probably run one of our club meetings for K Kids Week.
Oh, wow.
Have them come, they give presentations. They're really good, and they come and run your meetings. That's if you can do that,
They are the
that's
best.
wonderful.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow. That's a great idea. Okay.
I have one 5th grade K kid who is pumped up about the possibility of speaking at the Key Club District Convention. So we're trying to work that out because her family would have to travel, but it's during during winter break, and they could get discounted rooms because they'd be able to hook in with the district with that. But she goes, I could talk to all those high school kids. And I said, yeah. She goes, I'm in for it. She spoke at district convention this summer in Eau Claire, and her brother spoke about Builders Club. So I'm hoping I work it so those two can speak about Builders Club and K Kids at district convention for K Club. The challenge there, though, again, too, is I was trying to find somebody closer to the proximity of the district convention. But again, people don't, advisors don't respond to me. That's the challenge. That's why I think I have to go back again and connect with the district or the lieutenant governor for that area and try and make that connection. But so I'm hoping these parents will work it out so they would, because it would be, it's a little money to stay at a hotel. But I said, it's a resort. There's a water park. There's this, there's that. It'd be a fun, getaway for you, and fun experience for the two young people that would be speaking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Topic, but important for your secretary that don't know the button. I've also helped the secretary by giving them a report, knowing what their monthly report is. When we do an activity that might be an interclub, etc., I give them all the information because those poor secretaries can't go everywhere. But so not only do we do the K Kids reports, but we'll do it and send it to the Kiwanis Club because they don't get to see that. So that's another thing. I think the secretaries need a little more. We need to. They
Yeah.
have enough for their Kiwanis clubs. I think from our sides as DAs, I try to just help that way. So
That's a
That's a good point,
good
though,
connection.
even to Zoom with secretaries in a division and work, with the division. As a
Cool.
lieutenant governor, I'm trying to say, hey, that's something that I could do.
Mhm.
Because I have all the secretary background. The other thing I liked about being lieutenant governor is all of a sudden I had a lot of things I could click on and open and go into. So I can do Key Club and I could do division and I have K Kids and Builders Club now too. So I have a wealth of information, at the tips of my fingertips. And so that helps me to be able to help people more as well.
Yeah, when you're able to get into the system and use all that. Yeah, that is helpful, isn't it? And you're doing it regularly so you can know how
Yeah.
to share. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I guess the only other thing, Luana mentioned about our district administrator guide. We're going to be updating that, right, Luana? And I'll let Luana take it from here about the guide.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. So this spring, summer, we'll be significantly updating the district administrator guides. And we sent out a survey to district administrators in December to ask your input on, what you think is useful, what you'd like to see added. We only received a few responses, but we're hoping this is a very active crowd. You're all very busy, but you all somehow always seem to respond. So, wondering if any of you would reach out if you're interested in kind of being a sounding board for us, or maybe reviewing, portions of it when there's a draft, or just, being someone we can talk to and run ideas by. So that's it. You've been on a long time. Sorry we went long, but really, really great to hear about the work that you're doing and what works for you, and to hear you sharing with one another, because you all are the movers and the shakers.
Yes. Thank you for being with us. This has been wonderful. Great ideas
Thank
and
you.
suggestions, and yes, very helpful. Thank you.
Hey,
Hopefully,
thanks a
Mark.
lot.
Yeah, Mark, hopefully you got some great ideas as a new DA as well. So
Also, it wasn't said, but the publications on the website are excellent. They practically run the program itself. Whenever I'm introducing a new K Kids program to a school, I bring along a copy of the idea toolkit, and that gets them running right off the ground.
awesome. Great to hear, Kevin.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks
night.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.
Take care.
Bye-bye.